disability recovery aid infrastructure. Who gets this and who is doing it? That's what we are noticing. Disability recovery aid infrastructure brings severely affected community members into inclusive community discourse. We know one another is there. We can effectively communicate with one another. Doing this successfully addresses the violence of not only opportunistic individuals, perpetrators of various kinds, but also interpersonal operations like covert operations by trafficking organizations, and the ambient environmental entrainment technology, which includes social programs and EMF and pollution influences that facilitate interpersonal cooptation. In successfully addressing those forms of violence through inclusive community discourse that brings severely affected community members into full communication and participation in their community structures, this stops, repairs, and prevents community damage that otherwise facilitates sex trafficking and related violence. The community damage is the damage to our communications infrastructures, the damage to our relationships, to our sense of our community bodies. We stop the damage from occurring. We repair the damage that has occurred. We prevent the damage from continuing to occur. This means that human trafficking cannot occur in our environments. And that makes lots of sense. So, who understands this and is doing it? We have found people demonstrating certain components of this. And I'm thinking a lot about which of these we can talk about most helpfully. We've talked to a certain extent about Planet Waves offering certain kinds of resourcing. And although they didn't understand some things, they definitely have understood others. When we reached out to Sarah Westall, she understood a lot of things that many others do not understand at all. She doesn't understand everything, but we're in communication. And with Planet Waves and with Sarah, with Sol Luckman, with Kevin Annett, with others, we are actively coordinating disability recovery aid infrastructure. We broadcast on Radio Stream 1 on Mixlr this morning about disability recovery aid infrastructure, and I'm going to continue some of that. Disability recovery aid infrastructure includes many kinds of things. Earlier today, the 28th of March, 2022, 8 lizard, 8 dragon. We were talking about how private and public media disability recovery aid infrastructure restores and ensures safe, inclusive communications access in local communities and also across networks of non-local communities. We can also talk about disability recovery aid infrastructure that is transportation mobility, vehicle access, mobile living spaces, mobile working spaces, mobile resource hubs, and resources and resource structures that allow people to travel safely and in supported ways, even if they have found themselves at particular intersections of hardship and disability. This supports the individuals and families that are severely affected, and it also supports all of the living beings who are part of our communities, our greater than human communities, the living creatures all around us, the health of the land, the well-being of the land, all our relationships. Disability recovery aid infrastructure is what we build to ensure we are restoring our relationships, our environments, and the collective conditions for success. Transportation mobility, like private and public media communications, addresses not only interpersonal covert operations by trafficking organizations and or opportunistic individual perpetrators, but also addresses the ambient environmental entrainment technology, including social programs, EMF, and pollutant influences, which facilitate and support the interpersonal operations. We address both of these categories of otherwise ongoing violence. And when we address that violence, it stops, repairs, and prevents the damage to our communities that otherwise facilitates sex trafficking and related violence. We stop the damage from occurring. We repair the damage that has been occurring. We prevent that damage from continuing to occur. So who gets this and who is doing it? Please put them in contact with us.